Hi, it's John Kelly. In this module, we are going to discuss illegal acts. And as always, we want to be efficient and effective, follow professional standards, and document what we have done properly. The section actually has kind of a longer title, Consideration of Laws and Regulations, but illegal acts is a convenient shorthand. Now, the auditor would clearly like to find all misstatements, whether they're caused by error or fraud or by an illegal act. And professional standards tell us that there is a possibility that we might miss errors. If we've done the audit in accordance with standards, we still might miss an error. And we are more likely to miss fraud. What the standards tell us about illegal acts is that we probably will not find a misstatement caused by an illegal act, and indeed we're not expected to. And 250.05 lists the significant inherent limitations in an auditor's chance of finding a material misstatement caused by an illegal act. Now, even though we have relatively no chance of finding an illegal act or a misstatement caused by one, we still have to give it a try, and so 250.12 tells us that we should get a general understanding of the legal and regulatory framework and how the entity complies with that. That's also required as a risk assessment procedure, so we already should have done that in the audit and documented it. Now, this is also procedural and not risk-based, and 250.14 lists for us 4 procedures that we are to do and presumably document. The first 2 are going to be done and documented probably together. We are to ask management about compliance and get their response documented in the representation letter. So the documentation in the representation letter will implicitly document that we asked management about it. If there is a regulator that is involved with the client, we would ask to see any correspondence from them, though many clients, there is no regulator. We are to remain alert throughout the audit, and there probably should be a checklist step to remind us to be alert, and the completion of that step would document that we had done that. And absent anything brought to our attention by those 4 procedures, we do no further work. Now, if there is a law or regulation that has a direct impact on the financial statement, that is, there is a line item in the financial statements, income tax expense, income tax payable, we would, of course, audit that. There are examples in 250A8, and there may be none. And if there is something, and the Tax Act is another good example, not all of the Tax Act affects the line item income tax expense. So we would only be interested in those parts of the Tax Act that had that direct impact on the financial statements. Documentation, as I said before, the representation letter takes care of a lot of it. We might have documented that we remained alert in a checklist, and our general understanding was probably documented as part of our risk assessment procedures. Now, if we found something in that unusual circumstance, of course, more work and documentation would be necessary, and we would report it to the audit committee. And 250.18 and the following paragraphs tell us what we would do in that unusual circumstance. Litigation and claims, lawsuits, that's also procedural, 5 procedures. First and the 5th, again, inquire of management and then get their representation written down in the representation letter. We would review board minutes. That's otherwise required. We would be doing that anyway, so we would just be alert as we reviewed board minutes for anything that had to do with litigation and claims. And then 2 kind of related procedures. We would review legal correspondence, if any, and we would review the legal expense accounts to see if there was anything indicated. For instance, you might look at the legal expense account and find an invoice for preparing the minutes for the annual general meeting. That's not something that would give an indication of litigation or claims, so we would not assess any risk of material misstatement. If the procedures in 501.9 do, however, indicate a risk of material misstatement, then we would seek direct communication with the external counsel. So the point here is that a legal letter is not automatic. It depends on the results of the required procedures. So we would do and document the required procedures, conclude either that there was or was not the risk of material misstatement. If there is, then and only then would we send a legal letter. And documentation, no requirement, but it would certainly seem a good idea to document the procedures suggested by 501.9. So, thanks for listening.